Don in London. Good morning. It's January the 16th, 2013. God, these days go quickly, don't they? Anyway, my video is all about recovery from addiction to either substances or behaviour, trying to be perfect, never so, all those things. Driven mad by life and seeking oblivion in alcohol, in my case, and then becoming addicted to it, which was not a good idea. In fact, it wasn't an idea, it was a fact of life. I became dependent on a drug, alcohol, and it kept me in its sway, and it was my best friend for a long, long time, because it took the pain away and then took everything away and left me alone, isolated, and still judging the world as being unfair and blaming it, the world, for my woes. Indeed, I was the architect of my own disaster, I guess. I've just dropped something on the floor, excuse me. Anyway, alcoholic. I'm not quite sure what to do about it. Well, I didn't even know I was an alcoholic for a long time. But I got there in the end, and I reached what is called a rock bottom, and I had to admit and accept I could not stop drinking on my own. And I got some medical help to start with, and then they suggested I go to a fellowship. I said, what, a fellowship? Join in with other human beings trying to be sober? You must be joking, they're mad. And so was I. Anyway, I went to a fellowship called AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, and found that people had been restored to sanity on a daily basis. Well, some of them had, and some were still trying, just like me. So everyone in the same boat, aligned to something, sobriety, and then get the fun back in life, whatever it might be. So in this little book about AA, which is available on the internet, I understand, or can be got from meetings of AA who have enough money to buy it. We're very economic, we keep things in check. We never have enough money to do much above what's needed today, so that issues of money never become something we get worried about, except paying the rent for a room where we can meet. So what is AA? I'm going to share the AA preamble, and then I'm going to go off on my own reflections, if you like, what I've learned so far. I never speak for AA, but I've got to say, every single person I've encountered and who has helped keep the fellowship going, I have a debt of gratitude beyond measure. I owe my life to other people who showed me the way. I can never speak for them, and I never speak for the fellowship. I speak about how the fellowship has helped me, and that's important, because if you are out there as a recovering person, I can't speak for you, never can, never will. That's so important. You have your voice to share where you choose, and I would never want to take that away. So there's nobody shouting out and saying I am the spokesman, because there are no spokespeople or persons for a fellowship which values freedom above all else, freedom of choice back. Anyway, this is the AA preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share. They share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose within fellowship is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So you don't have anything taken away from you by the fellowship. You've got freedom of choice to do what you like and be part of something bigger which can be helpful. Only stopping one thing, drinking. So reality happens, we cope with it, there's fun, there's good, bad and ugly, just as life is. Reality as it is, and coping with it. So I'm a fan. I love people in AA and I love people outside it. and I try and take the principles of how to live life, the toolkit, the 12 steps of AA, into my life. So I live the life, I don't know if I was always meant to, but live the life I can, learning the truth of what's going on right now and dealing with it rather than walking away from it saying I don't like it. I might say I don't like it, but some things I have to do. Anyway, January 16th 2013, Wednesday morning, 8:30. I was writing this about 6:30. So January 16th 2013, AA 12 steps in action. Step 1 is my area in January. First step, powerless over alcohol, and if I take a drink life will get unmanageable. Question, who is John Barleycorn? The references in the AA Big Book, the 12 Steps and 12 Tradition, and AA Comes of Age were likely made in loose regard to the 1913 autobiographical novel by an extremely popular American author, Jack London, that chronicled his struggles with alcoholism. The novel's title, John Barleycorn, was taken from the British folk song of the same name. In the song, John Barleycorn represents the vital barley grain crop and the beer and/or whiskey made from it. In the song, John Barleycorn suffers pain, humiliation and death in ways which are said to represent the growth, cutting and distilling of barley. Around the time of the writing, much of AA's literature, John Barleycorn, had come to be used as a euphemism or an expression for alcoholism or alcohol. So, caught by John Barleycorn, alcoholism, alcohol. There are many different versions of the song, and the content can vary considerably, but generally have to do with themes of growth, suffering, death, alcohol, revenge and barley. And what I learned in my youth, or in my in my single child years, around the 6-7 mark, was how to brew rhubarb wine. Sling all the contents in the bucket with some water and sugar and a few raisins for a bit of extra flavour, and you've got a home brewing going on. So alcohol, John Barleycorn, was always in the mix in my life, and I liked it. It took the edge off, stopped the fear. Anyway, I started off very positive this morning, and then when I looked at John Barleycorn, it just jumped out the page at me. I thought I better get the reference right on that. That bit of writing I took from the internet. It's not mine, but it didn't actually say who wrote it. So there you go. John Barleycorn, alcoholism. So any references you might see to John Barleycorn in any of the AA literature just is the euphemism or description which fits with the alcoholic. Anyway, my words. Given the choice, would you play Russian roulette? With a clear head and a focus on reality, would you pick up a gun with 1 bullet in one chamber and 5 empty, and then spin the chamber, point the gun at your head and fire? The odds favour the stupid and the insane, and yet life is about risk. Life is about courage, and life is about bravery, and life is about having fun. In our right mind, we wouldn't even consider Russian roulette, and yet everyone doubts the dangers apply to them when it comes to alcohol. The consequences of being out of control impact emotionally and physically. I have worked hard and played hard for over 35 years. Alcohol, a constant companion for me. And they say, whoever they are, and I've yet to meet some of they, whoever they are, nothing is wasted in God's economy. Nothing is wasted in God's economy, or nothing is wasted in life experience and sharing life experience with other people. Nothing is wasted. It doesn't matter, because this is doing me good, because it's just reminding me of what I can and cannot do. I can have fun today. But I wouldn't hold a gun to my head and play Russian roulette for any amount of money, or the right girl, woman, my age, similar outlook, free of the burden of, free from alcohol. All those are possibilities today. and yet everyone doubts the dangers apply to them when it comes to alcohol. The consequences of being out of control impact emotionally and physically. I worked hard and played hard over 35 years with this constant companion. And actually I'm happy to say that nothing is wasted in God's economy, and I don't want to put the clock back. Alcohol served its purpose in my life, and at the same time many people are not alive to tell the tale and only serve as dead examples of the consequences with alcohol. And over the years, and especially in recovery and people coming in and coming out, I see a lot of people who were here went back out for some research because they were overwhelmed by life again. Something kept them from letting out the pain without a drink. They went back to cover the pain up again, and they died because death was preferable to life as a consequence of breaking ourselves completely. I nearly did that more than once. So, but for the grace of something or other, go I in this regard. And, you know, there is nothing romantic about it. I think that's what comes through with what I was trying to say as I wrote this. Historical suggestions around John Barleycorn, part of the cycle of life, a way of self-medicating, with the properties of sterilising obnoxious plagues over the centuries. Question mark. In many ways the alcohol served a purpose, and in my life it did serve a purpose. It took me out of control and away from inhibitions created by fear, dishonesty and self-loathing, because I had a head full of stuff going on around growing up and what it was to grow up, and some of my experiences as a kid were not right. But it wasn't anybody's fault. There's no blame in this. But never feeling right, being out of control on alcohol gave the illusion of joy and happiness, and opened many doors, helped me overcome self-doubt and self-fear. Or could it be that alcohol caused the problem in the first place, and I would have been better off learning how to deal with reality one day at a time? In so many ways people have difficult starts to their lives. Some people can cope. Many people never find their voice. The voice which says, who am I and what do I stand for, just for today? Because often we just don't know. We've been downtrodden or rebellious to the point of exhaustion. And some people take advantage of their station and their status. So some people it's like greatness. Some people have greatness in them, some have it thrust upon them, and some people get it. That with the greatness comes another addiction to behaviour, of trying to be the best. It's like a warrior. What else can you do? You're stuck being a warrior, and that's what happens with I suppose, an adult head and drink. Several millennia ago, life was immediate, brutal, and very unfair depending on your point of view. And homebrew and eating certain plants took the pain away. And there wasn't an authority which said, don't eat those plants because you'll be off your head. I can remember sitting in a bush when there was some very nice fruit which was tasty, but I fell out of the tree eating it. It was belladonna, or whatever those things are. It certainly took the pain away. I didn't feel the concussion that I got when I went down through the tree. But the same is true today. It's just more obvious because people talk about it a lot, and the more people talk about things you shouldn't do, the more you want to do them. And that's why a lot of people drink to oblivion, and some people become dependent and then addicted to substances. So we don't start off saying, oh yeah, I want to be an addict and that's my life goal. It's a consequence of risk taking, fear, needing oblivion, not wanting to be controlled by anything, and letting go the inhibitions which are created by life but not necessarily understood in our heads. So we go through a lot of pain, and some sensibly stop drinking and taking plant mixtures. But for every illegal substance that is called an illegal substance at the moment, it seems that somebody out there with a chemistry set is doing something. and creating more. And the consequences are some people live through it, some people are still alive but brain dead. I was watching a reality TV show on one channel about British youngsters on holiday abroad. The old adage, drink and be merry, still holds true. And you know, all through my formative years, I'll go on to that in a minute, it is all part of the mythology we grow up in our own culture in the UK, and we have never been far away from war, conflict and revolution. And when we are young, because we have this in our background, when we are young, our passion, the right and wrong we encounter can drive us mad, and can drive everyone to be revolted and revolting at the status quo. So just like everywhere else, UK youngsters 18 to 25s are having a hard time. The programme on holidays with British youngsters just reminded me that nothing has changed probably in the last few decades, because whatever people get up to on reality TV shows on holiday, I guarantee their parents had some inkling of what was going on, or were right in the middle of it. So it's a case of don't do as I did, do what I say, so the rebellion continues, without sharing the truth of what went on. And some of it was exciting and risky, and you know, war stories, yes. A revolution in personal freedom and freedom from want has led to a continued revolution whilst on holiday, at the weekend, and generally raving whenever the possibility arises. It's like trying to introduce a gun law when it comes to alcohol and the British culture. As individuals, we cannot change a thing that other people do because they will. And there's been a suggestion that putting up the price of alcohol, which is useful to the tax man, might curb people who get out of control on alcohol. Well, I can tell you, even if you've got no money, you'll make it, brew it, or do something to get it. Because if you are an addict and addicted and are the problem that society sees, they can't stop you. We need help. All we can do is work out what is good for ourselves, understand where our own madness came from, and as survivors, this is within fellowship for me, share our experience, strength and hope with anyone, anywhere who has a desire to get back to reality. So the desire to stop drinking is only the first component, admitting and accepting powerlessness over a substance like alcohol, and that if I do take a drink, life will get unmanageable. In fact, I know I need to be careful. Something's just flashed up, sorry. I need to be careful with myself, go to meetings, keep in the company and a fellowship where we learn about newcomers and what they're trying to do, learn about what we are trying to do as individuals to help, and what we're doing as individuals to remain sober, because it's a one-day activity, living reality. I was reading the 12 and 12 that sometimes people don't have to go right to the very rock bottom, the rock bottom that seemed a necessary part of my education with alcohol, and then emotional and spiritual bankruptcy. So when I say emotional, no idea what my feelings are, or if I have any left, except abject misery, desolation and wanting to die. And spiritual bankruptcy, that's no feelings or extreme desire to be dead. And the spiritual bankruptcy is not being able to live in the moment and not being able to live reality anymore, preferring oblivion to the truth. So bankrupt. And when I look back now, I had already experienced quite a number of emotional and spiritual rock bottoms before alcohol came along and scooped me up. So I was damaged early, and it's not me just saying that, it's family who've told me so, and they wondered how I survived some of it. So there we go. So alcohol came along and scooped me up, took me on the crest of a wave, and then dumped me on a great big pile of rocks, which were very sharp, and as the waves pushed me back and forth, the scars and the wounds just deepened. Why do people take illicit drugs when they know some people die? Some people are left brain damaged, and some people survive. Simply, we are risk takers and we don't want to miss out. And the consequence, if we live long enough, through whatever rock bottom we encounter with the help of John Barleycorn, or John Marijuana, or John Heroin, or Charlie, or wherever it is, and whatever substance and behaviour follow, will be as bad as it need be for a person to say to themselves, enough is enough, or simply get locked up long enough and to get a sense of another reality, because the consequences of illegal behaviour don't go away. And consciously behaving illegally and being out of control and illegal behaviour have the same consequences if you get caught. Yeah, consequences, for me anyway, still alive and kicking. After all these years, my life is not the one I imagined I would have. I never imagined being alive this long. And through the decades of finance and romance, which are the big things in life, being in love and having enough money so the world works, so many learning lessons in so many ways to share these experiences, the glorious highs and the desolate lows, and nothing much in between for quite a long time, as my addled head struggled with a dependency I really couldn't understand on a daily basis. So, the evening where you say, oh, I won't have a drink tonight, and you end up drinking a bucketful. The days when you know you've got a big job to do the next day, and you pour the last of the wine down the sink, and by the evening you're going out to buy some more, or vodka because it's faster. I want some sleep so I'm ready for tomorrow. And I never woke up with a hangover, except once in my early drinking career, and I stayed away from tequila after that, or tequila and orange, for a long time. It put me in bed for a day, and I didn't like that, but I didn't see that the alcohol was the problem, but it was, and me putting it in me. Yeah, I couldn't understand it on a daily basis, and there's nothing like relying on something as a best friend and not knowing it, to look at the world and think, well, what's wrong with this picture? I didn't look in the mirror too well, probably because I didn't like what I saw. Yeah, it wasn't nice. And there were glorious highs and inglorious and horrible lows, but life lived at the extremes and no middle in between. You're not good. Yeah, I really could not understand on a daily basis. I do feel that nothing is wasted because I got this far, but for many the consequences happen very early, maimed emotionally and physically. The more I would tell war stories and share comedic episodes, the more I was caught in my own trap, thinking that alcohol was the oil in the machine. It was not. It took the edge off me completely, and then the edge off reality. Today, reality is key. Not to be a Puritan, but to be free from fear, free from putting on a brave face and pretending to be okay. Free from ego, which is me judging the world as the world is judging me right back by my actions. And the romanticism associated with debauchery, all the vices that are open to we humans, and then the turnaround, the appeal is not lost on those who have travelled this road, because sometimes wouldn't it be nice just to go back and do what we did before without the consequences? And the answer is you can't. Not you, I can't. Or rather, I don't want to, and I don't need to. That's a good thing, I don't need to. Until rock bottom takes away everything and there is nothing left inside except insanity. The madness of drink and addiction. So what happened this morning? I started off writing and feeling quite positive. Yet I seem to have come to the consequences based on my own personal experience and watching programs about behaviour of kids on holiday. That is, kids around the age of 18 to 25, going mad when out of the country, and doing everything that their home world says is wrong. They call it some see and accident and emergency on some of these things, or what stays in this holiday camp It's like what goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas. And in the olden days, we created a Vegas as much as possible every evening, every weekend, and all the holidays we could probably muster. Yeah. Going mad when out of country and doing everything that the home world says is wrong. When the home world sits in judgment and does not really help people grow, the answer is not law, the answer is sharing experience, strength and hope. Because you cannot stop good people behaving badly. And these kids were good kids at home, and yet completely off their heads and doing everything of a debauched nature that older people are known to go and buy. Not this one, for Christ's sake. Yeah, when the whole world sits in judgment and does not really help people grow, the answer is not law, the answer is sharing experience, strength and hope. You cannot stop good people behaving badly, and you cannot stop bad people behaving well. But seeing what some of the bad people were doing, mixing drugs and gas and alcohol to get a fast high and fall over and cause damage to oneself. Blimey. It is the culture, it is the experience people go through which causes the problems and the solutions. Some people live through the most difficult times when everything is out of control, and yet they find a place of peace and serenity. Some people, through no fault of their own, go through the worst of times and are very badly affected, and the damage cannot be undone. Until a person is able to make a free choice and go through the pain and the joy, they will face the consequences of all their actions whilst mad. Like everything in recovery, contingent on our ability to cope with the present reality, insanity is optional and easy to access on any given day. I'm surrounded by wine merchants and restaurants and people who walk home or down to the local My Hotel. Lots of foreign people coming to England and having a really good time. Now, they behave differently in England than the English do when they're on holiday. And why is that? Because everything is set up for the English to go mad when they get to their destination. People know what we're like, so they provide it, and we gobble it up. Anyway. Yeah, so until a person is able to make a free choice and go through the pain and the joy, they will face the consequences of all their actions whilst they're mad. Like everything in recovery, contingent on our ability to cope with present reality, insanity is optional and easy to access. The miracle of those who can get the support and keep on getting that support on a daily basis is what sanity offers one day at a time. Freedom, absolute freedom to make good choices which are all full of fun. Romance and financial components full of hope and joy, as well as all the other crap we have to deal with on one day at a time. Because we do deal with crap. Nobody likes opening bills. Nobody likes to think, oh God, the electric bill is so high, how am I going to pay that? And why am I not in love? Well, I'm in love at the moment. I'm very happy to say I'm in love with life. And I'm open to everything. Fellowship, our fellowship, the fellowship of AA, I can't speak for it, but there's no age restriction. The doors are open to anyone, anywhere, at any time. It's about learning to live reality, learning to deal with all the consequences of life up to this point, and then learn how to deal with life in the moment of now. Or maybe not deal with it, live it and cope with what is going on. Live it. Living reality means we are growing and learning about every element and every component of our life today. From arguments to making up, from moving away from people then moving closer to people, learning what it is to love unconditionally. We still need to deal with good living and bad and ugly living, and know that it is just part of life. So we're going to meet good, bad and ugly people along the way, because that's what society has made them, and themselves, because their reaction to life has turned them that way. Imagine working in a customer services department where you don't agree with their ethics, and answering the telephone Well, they have a telephone answering service with maybe one or two people fielding thousands of calls a week. And the answer is normally no, if you're willing to wait. How does a person deal with their own integrity living in that environment? Well, I can't judge them. They judge it for themselves. And either they fall in with the company culture of low maintenance to existing customers, and in a resentful way make customers the target and not to be served, but they serve the shareholders. Depends which way you're pointing in all of this. But all that stuff goes on. We have conflicting ideas of what is good and behaving badly because that's what work says. That's what work says. We've got to work this way. We've lost our choices. Now the answer is stop and ask yourself, what can you do about it? And sometimes the only answer is to move away from things in a planned way, not immediately because I'm in a bad situation, but I can work my way out of it. We can only do that with a bit of sanity, with the madness around us. It depends on your needs. What drives you? And what drives most people is having a relationship and enough money to live happily. Unless you're addicted, in which case you want many relationships and a great big pile of money to make life feel like it's happy. But then you're spread too thin and nothing works. I know that. So we learn how to deal with feelings, setbacks and success, and keep on choosing and having this freedom to choose what to do next. It is not about being compliant, not for me anyway. It's about being rebellious in the nicest possible way. Sharing the truth of what I see, and the truth is often ugly. And the good news is, even though life can be pretty awful, there is a lot of humour and a lot of joy to be experienced in everything. Human beings, we all have emotional resilience as we go through life, and we will have good, naughty experiences, because that is part of life, bad naughty experiences and ugly naughty experiences, or how else would we ever learn what is right and what is wrong? Maybe I am just a rebellious Puritan with a head full of vices as well as virtues. Well, I have. But somewhere in the middle of all of that is balance. Enough lustiness to get off my feet and go and shut a girl up, and enough virtue to know whether or not it's a good idea or not. I quite like wearing black, but not the pointy hat which goes with a Puritan, and not a judgmental attitude on others. I don't feel any amount of legislation is ever going to stop some of us going through these experiences offered by John Barleycorn and the madness that follows. Out of the madness comes sanity for a few. Never enough in my view, because the consequences remain as dire as they ever will, one day at a time. And I've got a black suit in the cupboard, and I'll be getting it out soon, I have to say, not because I want to, but because it's another funeral. And actually I'm going to go to a funeral soon. Anyway, I can't talk about that because it hasn't happened yet, but it will. And somebody who found reality, somebody who found real reality, real love with one person, and the love of family and community. Their whole life changed around, and every single day I have in recovery is a day extra for me. And I say that because, well, family realised that they couldn't help me. The more they tried to intervene, the more they were enabling me to, because they didn't understand what was going on, nor should they have had to understand. And they consulted didn't actually consult the Fellowship of AA. They went to another fellowship called Al-Anon, which is about those people who have to deal with alcoholics, Al-Anon. And they spoke to somebody there at length, and they realised that no single human had the time that it takes to help another alcoholic. So that's why meetings and the fellowship is so important to me. There's over 700 in London available on well, not 700 a day, but 700 meetings a week, and I have many meetings around me all the time, just beyond all the off licenses and restaurants which sell alcohol. So I have to walk through hell. No, it's not hell. And it's not hell when I hear the bottles rattle in the morning into the waste bins by the hundreds, because they're very, very popular restaurants. Anyway, I don't have very much experience of them other than Sunday lunch, where I've been with family and we've all drunk water, because that's preferable these days. But most of my family, actually I don't have any family in London now, except the family in the family within the fellowship, and some of those so close to me, they are family, and I love them. I found out what love is again. Or I found out what love is for the first time after the age of 5, where everything started to go a bit higgledy-piggledy. So enough of me for today, and even though it might seem a bit dire the way I was talking, the consequences of drink are horrible if it all goes wrong, and the risk wasn't, you can't take, when you're in the moment of alcohol, drunk, the risk taking and reality are lost. And sometimes people are lost as well. The serenity prayer, which I say at the end of every video, helps me in any given moment of now. Serenity, a return to sanity and peacefulness, because I can get mad as hell, same as anybody else, and my judging finger goes pointing that way, but there are 3 pointing back at me when I do that. 3 back. Responsibility for me and my actions remains with me. And if I have a sober head, even though I might feel mad about something, or angry, because I'm allowed to be angry, everybody is, and then explain why, of course. I feel angry because, and they're my feelings. And if you're feeling angry at somebody else, they may be not feeling angry at you, but you don't have to punch them on the nose. You've got choices, and that's what the 12-step toolkit helps with. Freedom to make the next right choice, the next right action for yourself, and keep your side of the street clean, as it were. Can do, cannot do. That serenity prayer saves me. I can do this, I cannot do that. So the can do, as we go to God or in good conscience. As a Buddhist, I'm not a Buddhist, I haven't decided. I don't know if I fit in a category of belief, but I do believe in good. And I'm not afraid of God. Why fear God? Or the Word? 7 billion people on the planet, all with their own definition of what they are, who they are, what they believe in. And no single definition is ever going to be right. 7 billion definitions. None of them can be explained at all, or defined. So, to the unexplained good today, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, learning by the second, the minute, the hour, and just for today.